Hi, my name is Srikar Chava. I am currently a undergraduate at the University of California, Berkeley. I am also an intern at Business for America. And today with me, I have.
Vicki Lee Parker. I am the executive director for the North Carolina Business Council here in North Carolina. And our mission is to connect, to empower, influence business leaders to build a vibrant economy that sustains local economies, that protects our natural environment, and as well as benefits all businesses in North Carolina.
So, Vicki, I understand that NCBC members, during a recent retreat, identified fair elections as their top concern or issue priority for 2019. What do you think prompted that?
Sure. So actually, fair elections has been a top priority for the council for several years. Actually, we discussed this, and one of the reasons the council was created was to have a voice for businesses that values people, planet, and profit, as I said earlier. And as that being our primary mission, to have that voice, we realized quickly that we needed to have fair representation in the legislature in order to be heard. And you can't have that voice if you don't have fair elections. So in order to have fair elections or have that fair representation, we realized that every vote should count. It's just that simple. So this was really issue was born out of our mission to have a voice downtown for businesses that had maybe some different concerns or alternative concerns.
So, North Carolina has certainly been in the news a good deal recently concerning how it conducts elections. Tell us how NCBC is defining fair elections and why is this an important issue to business people?
Sure. So we define fair elections again very simply that every vote should count, and we also look at fair elections as to mean that it should allow for the opportunity to maximize voter turnout as well. A lot of business owners are tied to their businesses during the day. They are, and sometimes even in the evenings, it's not easy to get away to vote and to participate in government. So we want to make sure that there are policies, and we have some, and we want to keep those policies that allow for businesses to go out and vote at different multiple locations, as well as at different times that are outside of their business hours. So we see fair elections as uh, including a number of those things: counting your vote, being able to vote, having accessibility to vote, and not having any policies that suppresses that vote in any way. And we find that in the system that we have now, um, that legislators are, we're living in a system where legislators are basically picking their voters, and rather than having the voters pick their legislators. And in a system like that, you're gonna be inclined for legislators to only listen to just a small minority group of people rather than all of the voters. So having fair elections again allows the the majority of the voice to be heard and to participate in the democracy. And that, strengthens businesses and communities when all people are heard.
So, let's talk about redistricting or gerrymandering. It's a hotly debated topic in North Carolina these days. What are the main issues and who stands to gain from a less partisan method of drawing legislative district boundaries?
Well, let me answer the second part first. All voters stand to gain from, a less partisan method of drawing districts and boundaries because it simply puts the power back in the hands of all the people and not just in a handful of people. So this is something we see as a benefit to all, and that is something that's very important to us and part of our mission. The real troubling issue for NCBC is how gerrymandering dilutes the vote and our voice. And let me give you a case in point. Say if you're a business in a community and you have an issue and you need to have your representative help you resolve that issue. Well, if you're in a highly gerrymandered community, chances are you're going to probably have maybe 2 or 3 representatives that represent that small area that the problem includes. And so that means now you're, instead of going to one person to represent your cause, you're now having to go to 3 or maybe more and get them all to agree to act in sync on your behalf. And as we have seen with gerrymandering, that is a very difficult thing to achieve, because simply those 3 representatives are representing 3 different groups. So you could very easily go there and find that in that very small community, you'll have 3 representatives or with 3 different concerns. And what happens is that your main concern, or that concern for that community, is not going to get addressed anywhere, because you won't ever have someone to actually push your case and advocate for you downtown. So it just, again, it dilutes your voice. And then the problems persist, and that's what we see happening in areas across the state, is that you can't get things done because you don't have the representation to fight for you.
Do you also feel that gerrymandering tends to make elections have a less voter engagement or turnaround?
Well, honestly, there are a number of things that play into voter turnout. So it's hard for me to really say what decreases or increases it. I know that this certainly plays a part. I can't say definitely if that's the only factor here.
I understand that one of the NCBC's priorities is for the redistricting process to have clear rules and standards. What does this mean, and how would it differ from the current situation?
Sure. So we are, the North Carolina Business Council is in support of actually having a constitutional amendment, which would allow for more permanent rules, clear rules and regulations and standards on how to draw our districts. Now, we realize that's a high bar, but we feel that that's what's necessary, because it would protect it from falling victim to what a party that's maybe in majority to make any changes. Um, so what we are calling for is a constitutional amendment that clearly outlines the standards and the rules on how to draw those lines. And that will include things such as not taking into consideration the race or political party of the individuals. And it would also include things like making sure that the boundaries are, clear and consecutive, I guess. So you're not going to have a lot of zigzags or pinpoint districts that are clearly weaving around areas or leaving out certain portions of a community. So we want to make sure that the boundaries are clear and inclusive as they can be. And also, that's also very important, is that we want to make sure that the rules are transparent and that there should be public comment and public input prior to finalizing those lines. Currently, in our current system, it's just not clear how it's done. It's mostly done behind closed doors. And the public generally doesn't know or have any input until it's all done, and we're just presented with whatever the result is. So we're advocating for policies that include public comment as well as not including party affiliation and race.
As a business organization, why are fair elections important? Is there a business case or an economic argument to be made for better systems of conducting elections?
Well, again, it all goes back to allowing all voters to have a voice in creating policies and laws that govern our communities. We need a system where businesses, no matter their size, they should have a say in how the government is run. And large companies, tend to have different needs from maybe mid-sized or small businesses. But all of those concerns should be heard in order to create more balanced solutions for all businesses so that they can grow. If you have a case which occurs under a gerrymander scenario where only a small group or maybe large groups who who have very loud voices are the only voices being heard by the legislators, well, then, that opens up the opportunity or misses opportunities to help mid and small sized businesses and have their concerns weighed in on decisions and policies that are made. And, and clearly studies have really shown that when all businesses can grow and thrive, then the communities grow and thrive. So we want big companies to grow. We want all the companies to grow and be in a position to be heard to grow.
Do you have any thoughts on how these proposed reforms relate to strengthening democracy overall in North Carolina?
Hmm. Well, democracy works when we work it. And we have to accept that we as a people have to continually work to protect our democracy. Is just not a given. And fighting for fair elections and fighting for redistricting reform is how we protect it. So I feel that we shouldn't be discouraged by this process or put off by this process. We should recognize that this is the process. Um, this is how we maintain the freedom, that we enjoy. We have to keep watch to ensure that democracy, prevails. It is our responsibility as citizens to ensure that, and not to just sit back and assume that it's just going to automatically occur. So, again, engaging on this, businesses in particular, I feel that we need to really step up our voice as well, because we have a very powerful voice, and and I feel we have a lot at stake on these issues. So we are really making sure that their voices are heard, and they want to be heard. So we're creating that opportunity for them. The council is, because there are businesses out there who really want to be heard on these issues and really want the business case to be understood.
So that's all the questions I have for today. Before we end, I was wondering if there's anything you would like to comment or anything at all. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a chance for you to talk at the end.
Well, I guess the only thing is, as the executive director of the Business Council, I'm certainly passionate about businesses, exercising their right. I know traditionally it was kind of an understanding that businesses shouldn't get involved in, legislative issues or policy issues. But the truth of the matter is, big companies have been involved for a long time, and I think I want to encourage, if you're a small business or mid-sized business, that you do recognize you have a voice and you have a right, and you have things that are, important, that impact your day-to-day business, that 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 is a result of some of the laws and policies that are being made. So, exercise that right. Be willing to speak out. And what I'm finding is that your customers and suppliers really appreciate people who are engaged and who really are truly trying to benefit the communities that they serve.
So I'd like to thank you again for agreeing to interview with me.
Thank you.
I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.